All Access Pete's Preseason is brought to you by these sponsors.
We welcome you in as we are looking ahead to the 2025 high school football season, the High School Red Zone, as we record this. And as you're watching, it may already be underway, but we're expecting great things out of a lot of area teams. Should have some exciting action as per usual. On Channel 7 leading up to the season, we looked ahead to 55 area teams, either on the news or on our hour-long High School Red Zone season preview show, Saturday, August 16th at 7 p.m. And, of course, at WSPA.com. We've got all the preview stories we've done. One of the teams that took the area by storm a year ago won their first 12 games in their inaugural season as a program and as a school. Mountain View Prep, the Stars, what star power they had. Some of those guys have moved on. Bryson Drummond, a great quarterback, and Jalen McGill, a great running back, to name a few. But they're excited for what's to come. Gray Ramsey, second-year head coach of the second-year program, kind to join us. And what a task it was building from the ground up. We'll talk more about what it's like to put a first-year program together. But you were upstate football through and through, because back in the day, not all that long ago, because you're not that old, Chapman High had built the beautiful new high school. You were still 2A, but were on the verge of eventually going up to 3A there. But you were playing quarterback at Chapman High, and was it the 06 or 07 season? 06?
It was the 07 season.
07 season, and all of a sudden we're deep in the playoffs, and there's a guy named Gray Ramsey leading Chapman to the state title game against Cheraw. But what was that experience like? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, what a phenomenal experience to have as a kid. You know, you grow up in a small town, you know, playing under the lights. I think all of our goals is to be able to make a run and to have that experience in the playoffs. And it was, I don't know if it was unexpected for us. We were very fortunate. I think that year we had 20 of 22 starters were seniors, so it was a group of guys. We had played a lot of football together. We knew that we would, you know, our best chance to have a great year was going to be going into our senior year. The year prior, we had graduated a bunch of juniors that had played ahead of us, so we had an opportunity in the next year for all of us that had played football since we were 5, 6 years old together, and momentum is a great thing in football. We were able to make a run. We had a really successful region schedule that gave us a great home field advantage into the playoffs. And growing up in Inman, if you know anything about Chapman football, it was always, can you get over the hump of Abbeville?
Yeah.
You know, some of those great teams that you had, the Toby Cates eras, you know, a guy that I coached with and still think about a lot to this day, Stephen Pissarro and those teams, kind of the Doc Davis era. Yep. It was always Abbeville that was in your way. And sure enough, we were matched up with Abbeville into the third round and was able to get it done, and to win the Upper State Championship at home was such a huge deal. Yep. And at that time, no male team in Chapman history had won a state championship. A couple of baseball teams had played for it.
Yep.
So it's just a big deal, and obviously in a place that I still love in my hometown to see what it was like on Friday nights there. Obviously was very blessed as a coach a couple of years later to come back and kind of see it to the end. But to experience that as a player, you know, now I don't feel like I'm that old, but still reminisce about those days and our guys that we played with, to still have those memories. Coaches that are still in this profession that were my coaches back then, you know, those, as soon as we see each other, we start bringing up memories about that season.
Doc Davis and Randy Burns had some really good teams, and also Central of Pageland, because in 2A back then, the Upper State went all the way over toward the PD. I remember they knocked off Chapman one year deep in the playoffs, because I was working in that market, covering it from that side. But Kevin Farmer was a young coach, and he was the guy who had taken over, and he eventually got into administration in the area. But he was a guy who got to know, we're like, wow. You know, what magic formula does he have? But as you say, an experienced team, and that helped. How much did that success as a high school player take you on the path to coaching? I mean, when you were playing ball for Chapman, did you think, you know, eventually I want to become a head coach?
Yeah, I think it was a culmination of a lot of things. We had a really good coaching staff that it made it easier for me to understand what my calling was in life. I look back now, and maybe in a time period when I was younger, I grew up, I didn't have a ton, so I had a lot of coaches that were really invested into my life, and that, took time out of their lives to make me feel important. I was very fortunate. It was just me and my dad, and he was a great dad to me. But like I said, we didn't have a ton. So after practice, I was riding home with a coach. I needed something to eat. I was being taken up to the local McDonald's or wherever to grab something to eat. And you just establish those relationships. So when I look back now, obviously as a teenager, I think sometimes you get into a moment where it's, oh, poor pitiful me, look at this, what life has thrown me. Now I look back and I think about all the blessings that came with kind of maybe some of that hardship and that adversity that I had to go through. And the blessing that I had was I identified my calling probably a little bit earlier than some people do in life. So when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, I was very fortunate. I was a pretty good athlete of basketball, football, baseball, played them all. But I knew long-term that wasn't going to be something that I was going to do for a living. So the immediate next thing that I wanted to do was coach. And to see those coaches, making a difference in my life and to know that I had an opportunity later on to kind of return the favor and to do that for kids, it was something that I immediately wanted to do. I think growing up in a small town made it easier because it was easier for me to get connected. And I remember going off to college and came back and started working on the grounds crew in District 1. So I was cutting grass and then going to class in the mornings, coming to District 1, cutting the grass, and then I would leave the lawnmower and go and coach in the afternoon. So got plugged in, and I just think it's because of great people and great coaches that I still have to this day that we talk often that made it really easy for me to make the decision that this is what I wanted to do.
So the coaching career, once it got going, once you got out of school, I know prior to Mountain View Prep, you were under Mark Hodge, a former Chapman head coach in his own right, who won 2 state titles. You were under him at Spartanburg, and I should know this, you were under him at Chapman as well.
I was, yeah. I've worked for one guy my whole entire career.
Good guy to work for.
It was just a great experience for me. When you talk about God's blessings and how little things work out, I still remember being in the USC Upstate Library and sending an email when Coach Farmer left. I knew I still wanted to be involved in coaching, so I started reaching out and was fortunate that Coach Hodge actually brought back some of the assistants that we had as I was a coach, and I reached out through email and said, hey, I want to coach. Where can I get plugged in? And was fortunate enough to get plugged in at the middle school level. And started coaching right off. And when you start working for Mark, you learn that, details are really important. I was very fortunate that from a very early age, he empowered me and said, well, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want this to look like? What do you want your coaching career to look like? There was never any pressure, to be a head coach. It's something that I wanted. And so he empowered me to do that over the course of 10 years together, 6 years at Chapman, which a phenomenal run. And then when he took the Spartanburg job, it was a leap of faith. I think at times you probably could have asked me, are you ever going to leave Chapman? You're going to leave the hometown that you're in? And probably the answer at some times in my life was I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. But prayerful consideration and going over to Spartanburg, man, what a blessing it was for me to go and experience new things. I tell people all the time, I wouldn't be prepared for the role that I'm in now had I not been there. Different administration, different type of leadership, different types of kids, just a different everything that you're exposed to. Some better, some worse. And you take everything that you've learned now from 2 places and you try to bring it into a new place, and it's helped me dramatically. But very thankful for my time, and we couldn't have started at a better time together, the success that we had on the field. But most importantly for me, just learning what it means to be a head coach behind the scenes and to be plugged in. It's a lot more than calling plays. I think that, everybody loves to talk about that. And I enjoy the competitive aspect of that and being able to be involved on a Friday night. But running a successful program takes so much more. And over the course of 10 years with him, you learn a lot. So just thankful to be in that situation that I am now.
So the challenges of building a program, and look, we all know, and we've talked about it, you got kids from a lot of other places, and had you opened a traditional public program, the same thing would have happened, but you provided an opportunity, so you had to put a roster together, got some talented guys, but there was a lot that went into it, just the basic stuff that no one ever thinks of, and the fact that out of your practice field, the goalpost looked like something that maybe Tom Sawyer had put together for you. I mean, there were a lot of things going on because you had to get kids and providing them a very unique unique opportunity to come and deal with some flack from folks who maybe didn't understand the full story, then also everything from putting footballs and helmets together. What was all that like in a short period of time?
Oh, man, just a whirlwind. I think back to where we are now, and you fast forward, roughly 12 to 14 months of us putting this together, and to think back to where we're at, and so many challenges that I wanted to try to predict that you think you will put yourself through and that you're going to go through in starting a new program, things that you see from the outside. It was just a blur at times. Just very thankful for the coaching staff that we were able to bring with us that helped me a ton. Guys that I had worked with for years, so that we had that prior relationship. Former players of ours at Chapman and at Spartanburg that were on our coaching staff that came over. So the relational aspect, I think, definitely helped us expedite kind of those growing pains and to kind of overcome those as we were going through starting that new program. And, you never realize how much you love being a head coach till you're practicing on 40 yards of dirt and PVC goalpost. And you learn to love the little things of what it means. But in the big scheme of things, I think it helped us. We were a group of guys, adults included, that experienced a lot of backlash. Let's just call it what it is.
I mean, we all know it, yeah.
You could turn on social media, you could turn on the news, you could turn on anything, and most of the time there was an opinion of people that they wanted to have towards our school. And at the end of the day, we were a group of kids and a group of coaches that we just wanted to play football, and I wanted to coach kids and help them as much as we could. And, on Friday nights we wanted to compete. And after that, the game of football kind of becomes minor in the big scheme of life. So for us to kind of have that, and for us to not have a lot of other things to rely on, we didn't have a choice but to grow together.
Yep.
And become close and to rely on each other to kind of ignore the noise. And it really helped us. I'm just super proud of that first group that we've had. We were very fortunate enough to have some great senior leadership that really set a great foundation for us moving forward. And then now, jumping into year two, it feels a little bit more normal. You get an off season, some of the cliche things that you get to do as far as building a culture and helping behind the scenes. You've got to spend some time on. You get a March period. You've had a spring practice, and now here we are in summer. And I know the kids. I don't have to. What's your name? Where
exactly.
you come from.
Yeah.
I know how you think. I've seen you respond. I know how you handle adversity. I know how you handle success. I know your parents. I know who you hang out with. I know, do you need hard coaching? Do you need some tough love? Are you more of a person that needs it? It just comes down to the relationships that have made, fast forward in 14 months or so, a whole lot easier this go around in the summer.
And look, it's going to become more of a normal existence because you guys will now be around. You'll be a familiar school that teams play. K.D. Hainsworth and Jacoby Smith are two guys that are dynamite players among the many you have, and you're excited about them. Best of luck to you in the season ahead. Once again, eventually you'll have a football stadium in your own school, but you'll be playing some games in different places. And again, we'll update folks on the news and all that, where that'll be. But thanks so much. Gray Ramsey, a guy who is an upstate football guy through and through, played in the area and has coached in the area. A whole career has happened here in the area, and really great talking to you.
Thank you.
All Access Pete's Preseason is brought to you by these sponsors.
High school football in the area in 2025 is upon us. We are looking forward to many a Friday night in the high school red zone. You may have noticed on Channel 7 and the CW62, we've had our previews airing, our high school red zone team previews. You can also find those on WSPA.com after they air on TV. And then coming up on August 16th, a Saturday night at 7 p.m., our hour-long high school red zone season preview show. As we lead up to the season, we are looking ahead to more than 50 area teams and what they've got in store. Well, a guy who's had quite a bit of success as a head coach at a lot of stops, most recently leading the Westside Rams. What a job he's done in his first 2 years. Brian Lane kind to join us. First season at Westside, they win a thriller against South Florence, one of the schools he used to coach at, and they win the state title. Last year came up ever so close, heartbreaking loss in the state title game. He's going to have a great team because that's as good of a coach as he is and the kind of talent. He does only have one starter back on offense, so sorry about that. But because you got so much talent, because you can X and O with the best of them, you're going to be just fine. But, Coach, thanks for joining us. First off, what an incredible journey, different coaching stops for you. Obviously, your alma mater, Burns, as assistant, but head coach at South Florence, Woodruff, Burns, Clover, and now Westside. I mean, think about that. That's a lot of schools. The different kinds of cultures you've seen football-wise. It must be a really interesting ride for you when you think back of the different places you've been.
Yeah, Pete, man. First off, thanks for having me, man, and just appreciate all this and all you've done over the years for football in this area. But yeah, and covering me in all the area I've been in has been probably pretty funny too. But man, yeah, it's been great seeing the different kids and just having that rapport with kids. Man, I know kids from the lower part of the state that I keep in contact with from the PD area. Matter of fact, Troy Jones is one of his daughters are my goddaughters, and he was my first quarterback when I was down at South Florence. And so, I keep in contact with my players from Woodruff, my players from Burns, my players at Clover, and now my players at Westside. So this is a good ride for Coach Lane.
So part of your football journey, and I'm going out and guessing when you were a quarterback at Burns, you probably had the inkling that you would be getting into coaching. I mean, was that pretty much always going to be the plan?
Yeah, 100%. One of my sixth grade teachers, she just passed a couple of years ago, Mary Roberts. She encouraged me to become a teacher when I was in sixth grade. So I kind of want to be a teacher. I knew I wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah. And
I played sports. I didn't realize I wanted to be a coach until I got into 10th grade. Bobby Bentley, who I consider one of my mentors, he opened my eyes to the game of football. I was a baseball guy.
Oh, wow.
Ron Simmons was my baseball coach. Loved Coach Simmons. And, man, I was a baseball guy through and through. But when Coach Bentley showed me how do you attack cover 3, cover 2, cover 4? And I'm thinking, you just call a play right. No, this is how you do it. Yeah. And I fell in love with the game of football, and so I knew that one day I wanted to be a head coach, and I worked that way to become a social studies teacher and a head coach. So
wow.
So I've been doing it for the past 18 years.
Jeez. I got here in 1990, and the back end of that season, my first full season was 1991. Burns had a quarterback named Dorian Lane. Then they had a quarterback named Brian Lane. And then they had a quarterback named Tony Lane. Tony, you guys, Dorian and Brian, you guys each achieved some good stuff, although you might have been there for some of the early Bobby years when the struggle was. But anyway, and then Tony led Burns to me, one of the really early signature wins in Bobby Lane's tenure when they beat Spartanburg in Gibbs Stadium. And I think maybe the second year they were playing there. But anyway, I always wondered this among the three brothers who were reasonably close in age. I know Dorian is a few years ahead of Tony, obviously. You're right in the middle. But was there kind of that in-family competition? Or because you say you were more leaning toward baseball, I mean, did you guys kind of compare the stats of what Dorian did as a starter to you, to Tony?
100%.
I would think so, yeah.
We still do it right now. I'm 49 and Dorian 50. I'm almost 49. Dorian's 50. And we do it right now today. But when I go, I'll say this right now in front of everybody. Tony was the best.
How do you like that?
I'll admit it. Dorian led the way and made it easy for me. Dorian made it easy for me, even in the classroom. Now, the first day of school, Brian Lane, are you Dorian Lane's brother? Yes. Oh, you come to the front. So Dorian made it easy for me, but Tony came through and just that little brother syndrome and just beat everything we did.
Wow, how do you like that? Well, and I assume Dorian probably would, if he had to, would give credit to Tony as well then. So the older brothers giving a pat on the back to the younger brother. And Dorian, who's coached with you before, I guess is back on your staff at Westside now. So that's got to be pretty cool to reunite
awesome,
there.
Man. Get it back together, get him back with us,
Yep. All right, so speaking of family members, you've now had a few months to kind of reflect on that very special day in April. And such a thrill for me having known you and your family for all these years. NFL Draft Saturday, your son Jalen, who had a nice career at Middle Tennessee, then he took it to Virginia Tech, showed he could play in the ACC. And pretty early early on that Saturday, boom, the Washington Commanders said his name, and then I interviewed you guys probably within an hour of that. And that was just really neat. I've done that a lot before, but maybe it connected with me more. I can tell you it definitely connected with me more just because I've known you and your family for so long. But you're an NFL dad, so you're not only a guy who's trying to win state championships, you've had a football life. But what's that been like? And with your wife as well, being parents now of an NFL guy, and I know you've got some interesting experiences and have had some even so far with Dan Quinn and the Commanders and their organization.
Yeah, man, it's just unbelievable, especially when you see how hard your children work. Being a coach, you work with so many other children, and I've had, as a head coach, Jalen makes the fifth. That's my fifth guy that I've had the pleasure of coaching that made it to the NFL. But it's quite different when it's your own son.
Yeah.
And because you see the struggle, because he wasn't a very big prospect coming out of high school. You had that conversation with him, and you see, hey, Pops, why am I not getting, recruited? Why am I not getting offers? And I'm just grinding. Son, what you going to do? You going to stop? You going to keep going? He's like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to grind. And just every day he just build that chip on his shoulder that, whoever not going to pick me, I'm going to make him regret it. And he just lived that, and being a short stature guy, I always told him, man, they're not looking for you, man. You're 5'9". They're not looking for your receiver. So you got to make them see you. So get on special teams. I said, man, if you run back some punts or some kickoffs, somebody's going to take that because they don't have to call an offensive play. So you make it easy. You help out coaches. And he bought into that. And we were blessed just to have he was blessed to have a great career at Clover High School. And he went on to those two schools. And Coach Stockstill, man, was awesome in recruiting. And Jalen just fell in love up there. And I'm going to tell you, in this day and age of transferring things, it was hard for Jalen. It really was. Some people say, no, it wasn't, man. He struggled because he's such a loyal guy. But some of the things that I tried to teach him growing up is when you get too comfortable, you're not going to grow. And he just felt at Middle Tennessee, he felt like he'd done what he needed to do, and he wanted to challenge himself and not leave that question. Well, yeah, he's at Middle Tennessee State, running back punts and kicks and having a 1,000-yard receiver. Can he do that with the big boys?
Yeah.
And so he didn't want to leave that question out. And so it worked out for him, and we're blessed that everything's happened for him and our family. Yep.
So I remember being at the Shrine Bowl the Friday, I think it was. Well, it was a Wednesday of Shrine Bowl week, the year he was in it. And I remember seeing you guys stand in line. They had a different process there, but that was the early signing day. It might have been the very first December early signing day, and they did the ceremonies at the Shrine Bowl. And I remember seeing you guys in line, and one of the things I thought at the time, I don't think I mentioned it to you, is I'm thinking, okay, Brian just told me his son's going to Middle Tennessee, and because Clover's not in our viewing area, we didn't cover you as closely as we would have. But anyway, I'm thinking, all right, the Charlotte airport's probably not that far of a drive from Clover because he's going to want to get out to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, maybe fly into Nashville and see his son. And then, of course, you appeared many times on TV in Blacksburg, Virginia, wearing your Virginia Tech colors watching him. So I suppose as soon as the Commanders' schedule came out, what have you and the wife sat down? Now, you're going to be trying to do your best to get the Rams another state title on Friday nights, but what are your weekends going to be look like? Because I got to think you're going to want to be at as many of the Washington games as you can be.
100%. Well, I've been blessed, man. My wife, Kenya, she has just been a super duper trooper. I mean, throughout Jalen's career, she's only missed 2 games of his college career.
Wow.
And one was because it was the first game was COVID, and they were playing Army, I think. They were playing Army.
Yeah.
And we couldn't go. They didn't allow anybody in the stadium.
Yep.
And then she missed one other game. I missed probably about 8 games. But out of his college career, just because when they play on Thursday nights, I couldn't make it. But my wife is there, and so we're planning the same thing. I mean, she's already planning on going to the preseason Commanders games, and I'm going to be able to go to one on the 23rd.
Yeah,
I'm going to leave. I'm going to be leaving Alabama and going up there playing they're playing Baltimore Ravens on the 23rd. But yeah, we're making plans, and the weekend's we're going to kind of flip it a little bit. Normally we do stuff on Sundays, but I'm going to do it with my staff on Saturdays, and it's going to be a lot of this. It's going to be a lot of technology.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
But my guys, I mean, I got a tremendous coaching staff, but me and my new quarterback, we're going to be meeting on Saturdays in between him checking out his big brother,
Yep.
At South Carolina and things like that. But that's kind of the plan right now is kind of move things to Saturday, and
Yep.
what we don't get on Saturday, they'll finish it on Sunday.
Yep, that'll be good. And again, in this day and age, just like we're doing here, you can be in a meeting. If he's kicking off at 1 o'clock, maybe you fly out. I know that out of GSP, you can fly right into Reagan. It's not a bad flight.
Yep.
And, you can just do a lot of meetings at noon on a Sunday if you have to, and then you can be sitting wherever you are at the game and then watch your son play. So that's a great deal. You also have now an interesting occurrence that maybe has happened in your career, but just like Fred Cohen, I think you had Fred Cohen for year than Bobby, but the point is Bobby had you and then Tony. Now you're going from Cutter Woods to Bear Woods as freshmen. So you can also maybe have a more special appreciation for that dynamic as a head coach coaching a younger brother, can't you?
100%. That was the first meeting I had with Bear. I told him, because I said, Bear, you're going to get compared to your brother no matter how you try. And I said, it happened with me. And I said, at the end of the day, you're Bear Woods. You're not Cutter Woods. And I said, you don't let anybody put you in a box. I said, the best thing, what I'm trying to do is get you to be the best Bear Woods you can be. And we've hit it off from that first meeting, and he's just done a tremendous job of learning the offense and leading our football team. And man, he's just 14 years old.
Yeah,
it's incredible, man. And being 6'3", about 175 pounds, that don't hurt either. But he's definitely stepped in the role and just very intelligent, just smart, it's like I told everybody asks me, is he going to be better Cutter? He's going to be better Cutter. And I always tell him this. I said, Cutter has kind of knocked out the roadblocks, and Bear's kind of been there to follow him behind him. But Bear's going to be Bear, and whatever that takes him is going to take him.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. Bear's a freshman. You got another freshman named Jay White. Folks are going to get to know pretty fast, and a lot of talent coming back, even though you lost a lot of starters. Brian Lane, head coach of the Westside Rams, trying to win another state title. Appreciate you, my friend, and we'll be seeing you throughout the season.
All right, thanks, Pete. Have a good one.